Doron Spielman is a war analyst and former elite special operations commander of the IDF, and he joins us this evening. Thank you for joining us. So casual observers of all of this would not be blamed for being confused about all of the back and forth about how the United States is doing right now. But we began these operations where a lot of Americans were worried about the math of using Patriot missiles that cost $2 million to take down Iranian drones that cost $20,000. It now appears that Iran is running out of ammunition, at least ammunition that needs to be taken down by Patriot missiles. Where do you think things stand right now?
Thank you for having me, Charlie. So just to contextualize my comments for your audience, I'm a U.S. citizen, former deputy commander of Israeli Special Operations Unit Sayeret Matkal. To your question, there are two aims to this campaign. The tactical aim is to eradicate the military infrastructure and postpone this cancer by about 5 years because the Russians and the Chinese, for whom the Iranians are playing, are going to reconstitute them. The maximal mission is regime change and have them working with us, basically choosing democracy over tyranny. What's the status? The military force of the United States right now hovering over Iran is unstoppable. We're going to accomplish mission number one. It's just a matter of weeks. There's going to be no military infrastructure, no ballistic missiles, no nuclear powers, and ability to enrich uranium. This is a matter of another week or two. That's mission number one. It is unstoppable virtually. Mission number two requires eliminating layer 1, 2, and 3 of the regime, eradicating the IRGC, and then enabling a friendly general to lead a civil war and take control of Iran, and then come the elections, and they basically choose the West. We're well on our way, and as you've seen today, 2 more leaders have been eliminated. Basically, their CIA, Mossad, and undercover special operations unit in Iran have been there for a long time. They target these leaders, and this is inescapable.
As you know, however, America doesn't have a very good track record of running civil wars in foreign countries. I think that that has been a major sticking point for a lot of people who have concerns right now.
That may be the case, but I'm confident that the Mossad, the CIA, and undercover special operations unit are going to let us know when the conditions on the ground are ready for a civil war that, by the way, is led by Iranians can start. Hopefully, there's no need for any of our conventional forces on the ground, and hopefully this doesn't get to a point where the United States decides to also hurt the economical and civilian infrastructure.
So do you have any confidence that the uranium can be removed, or Karg Island can be controlled, or the mines can be removed from the Strait of Hormuz without having boots on the ground, or at least combatants in the Strait of Hormuz?
We'll know in about 2 weeks whether the CIA and the Mossad give the green light and that the conditions on the ground allow for the so-called friendly general to start the uprising. If that is impossible, and we'll know in the next 2 weeks, then there are 2 other options. Option number 1 are conventional forces on the ground, which you've just referenced, for a short period of time in order to facilitate the uprising, in and out 3 to 6 months. The next possibility, which is more severe, is to make Iran into Iraq. In other words, not only to eradicate the military infrastructure, but also the civilian infrastructure, so there's no economic base in the last 20 to 30 years for them to build ballistic missiles and nuclear power. Now, if there is an uprising and the Iranians become friends with us, then trucks can come in and take the uranium out.
I think one of the problems that a lot of people have is that I don't think many people look at Iraq and see that as having been very successful for the United States. Let me ask you about this, though. I was glad that you sort of explained your position at the outset. There are factions in both sides, sort of on the right in American politics and on the left in American politics, who keep talking about how President Trump is somehow doing the bidding of Israel by doing this. And it's kind of hard to debate somebody if they don't acknowledge that actually the United States actually has interests here in seeing the free flow of oil out of the Middle East. What are the actual interests that the United States has in Iran?
Thank you. So in order to be strategic, we need to be less naive. So there's a reason why Russia and China support Iran. Iran is a pitbull that the Russians and the Chinese are funding and enabling in order to apply kinetic pressure on the West and on us, the United States. And once they have nuclear power, they have impunity. We can no longer stop them. So this is just a matter of time, and we need to understand that Iran is playing for Russia and China. They don't want a confrontation directly with us.
Right.
This is a major threat. It needs to be eliminated just like any stage 1 cancer.
Doron Spielman, thank you very much for joining us.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.